History is written by the victors, and in the case of Cleopatra, the victors were Roman men who were absolutely terrified of her. For over 2,000 years, the world has been fed a magnificent lie. Paintings, plays, and movies have painted her as a tragic seductress, a woman draped in silk and gold who used her intoxicating beauty to bring powerful men to their knees. But this is nothing more than ancient propaganda, a brilliant smear campaign designed to mask a deeply unsettling truth for the Roman Empire. Rome did not fear Cleopatra's body. They were terrified of her mind. She was not a love-struck queen. She was a ruthless, highly educated CEO of a crumbling empire. Before we unravel the masterclass in political survival that was Cleopatra's life, if you are fascinated by the hidden truths of history and want to see the past stripped of its lies, hit that subscribe button right now. This is not a love story. This is the story of a brilliant strategist who weaponized everything at her disposal, her wealth, her intellect, her languages, and her theatricality, to stand against the most unstoppable military machine the ancient world had ever seen. The year is 48 BC. The Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt is on the brink of total collapse. Civil war rages, and a 21-year-old Cleopatra has been driven from her capital, Alexandria, by her own brother. Meanwhile, Julius Caesar, the undisputed conqueror of Rome, arrives on Egyptian shores with his battle-hardened legions. Cleopatra knows the harsh political reality. Whoever secures Caesar's backing will sit on the throne of the pharaohs. But how does a deposed, exiled queen even get into the room with the most powerful man on earth? She orchestrates one of the most audacious gambits in political history. Smuggled past enemy lines, hidden inside a rolled-up bed sack or rug, she is carried directly into the heavily guarded royal palace and unrolled at Caesar's feet. When Caesar looked down, he did not see a desperate girl begging for her life. He saw a polymath. He saw a woman who spoke 9 languages, who understood the complex geopolitics of the Mediterranean, and who came to negotiate, not to surrender. Her proposition was dangerously simple and strategically flawless. Rome was bankrupt, crippled by its own civil wars. Egypt was the wealthiest nation on earth, the economic engine of the Mediterranean. She offered Caesar the boundless wealth and grain of Egypt to fund his armies, and in exchange, he would use his Roman steel to crush her enemies and restore her to the throne. It was the ultimate transactional alliance, a perfect fusion of Egyptian gold and Roman iron. With Caesar's backing, Cleopatra reclaimed her empire. But her true genius was how she governed it. Unlike the 3 centuries of Greek Ptolemaic rulers before her, who violently refused to learn the local language, Cleopatra actually learned Egyptian. She presented herself as the living reincarnation of the goddess Isis. She stabilized the economy, manipulated currency, and managed vast trade networks stretching all the way to India. She wasn't just ruling Egypt, she was managing an ancient multinational corporation. But the ancient world was unforgiving. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar is assassinated on the blood-stained floor of the Roman Senate. The geopolitical chessboard is flipped violently overnight. Rome descends into another brutal civil war, and a new predator looks toward the immense wealth of the East, Mark Antony. He is Rome's most formidable general, a hyper-masculine, aggressive warlord who summons Cleopatra to the city of Tarsus to demand her loyalty and her gold. Cleopatra knows she cannot defeat Antony's legions in open battle, so she decides to conquer his mind. What happens next is a masterclass in psychological warfare and theatrical statecraft. She doesn't sail into Tarsus as a subordinate waiting for orders. She sails up the river Cydnus on a magnificent floating palace with a gilded stern, purple sails, and silver oars beating time to the sound of exotic flutes. She reclines beneath a canopy of gold, dressed perfectly as Venus, the goddess of love, surrounded by servants dressed as cupids. It was an overwhelming sensory assault. She was showing Antony that she was not a vassal state to be conquered. She was a living deity, an equal, and an empire builder. Antony was completely outmaneuvered. He came to demand tribute. He left as her geopolitical partner. Together, they controlled the entire eastern half of the Roman world. But this alliance triggered absolute panic in Rome. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir and Antony's great rival, realized he could never beat Cleopatra in a battle of wits. So, he waged a war of information. Octavian launched one of the first mass propaganda campaigns in human history. He painted Cleopatra as a foreign sorceress, an Eastern witch who had emasculated a great Roman general and corrupted him with decadent Oriental magic. He convinced the Roman Senate that the very survival of Western civilization was threatened by this one woman. The propaganda worked. Rome declared war, not on Antony, but on the Queen of Egypt. The climax came in 31 BC at the naval battle of Actium. It was a monumental clash of titans, but the heavy Roman galleys of Octavian eventually outmaneuvered the Egyptian Roman fleet. The battle was lost. The dream of a united Eastern Empire was shattered. Antony, hearing a false rumor of Cleopatra's death, fell on his own sword, dying as the age of the Roman Republic died with him. The unstoppable war machine of Rome under Octavian finally reaches the gates of Alexandria. Octavian wants Cleopatra alive. He desperately needs her alive. In Roman tradition, the ultimate display of absolute victory is the triumph, a massive parade where the conquered enemy king or queen is dragged in heavy golden chains through the jeering streets of Rome before being brutally executed. Octavian wants to parade the great Cleopatra like a prized trophy. But Cleopatra is a strategist until her very last breath. She has controlled her narrative, her empire, and her life, and she refuses to let Rome control her death. She knows that escaping the Roman net is impossible, so she makes her final defiant move. According to legend, an asp, a venomous Egyptian cobra, is smuggled into her heavily guarded chambers inside a basket of figs. She allows the snake to strike. It was a calculated, religious, and political statement. In Egyptian mythology, the bite of the asp granted immortality and elevated the victim to divine status. By taking her own life, Cleopatra cheated Octavian of his ultimate prize. She turned a devastating military defeat into a personal, eternal victory. She died on her own terms as a sovereign queen, an undefeated pharaoh of Egypt, forever out of Rome's reach. Cleopatra used her incredible intellect, her immense wealth, and strategic manipulation to protect a dying empire against the relentless march of swords. She fought Rome's military might with the sheer force of her mind. But what if, centuries earlier, an empire wasn't built on the desperate defense of a crumbling kingdom, but on a revolutionary idea? What if there was a king who conquered the known world, not by burning cities and enslaving populations, but by weaponizing tolerance, freedom, and thought? Long before Cleopatra played her deadly Game of Thrones, a ruler emerged in the heart of the ancient world who shattered every rule of conquest. A man who built the largest empire history had ever seen, yet was hailed as a liberator rather than a tyrant. A king who wrote the first charter of human rights and whose name still echoes with power and reverence today, Cyrus the Great. How did one man unite the ancient world without turning it to ash? What was the secret behind the unstoppable rise of the Persian Empire? To discover the epic saga of Cyrus the Great and uncover the truth behind the empires that shaped our world, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Drop a like on this video and let us know in the comments below, do you think Cleopatra was a victim of Roman history or a ruthless, calculating politician? Until next time, don't just read history, live it.